Hello, fermented folks. Welcome to another episode of Fermented Fiction. Tonight, we venture into the wasteland to irradiate our own asses and discuss how war, in fact, never changes. And whether that's a good or a bad thing, it'll all be determined by the dice roll. And tonight, to debate the Fallout TV show from Amazon TV with us is Christopher O'Halloran. Christopher, thank you so much for being here, man. We're stoked to have you on the show.
My pleasure. I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Always
Good.
happy to be here. Happy to be talking about genre fiction and drinking beer with all the homies. And we're glad to add you to the collective homies tonight. So we'll start off this show the way we always do. And that's with a little round table introduction / personal update from our hosts. And then we'll end with Christopher so he can tell you all who he is. Why don't we start with Colin today, since he was the last one in? Calling you out.
What? Oh, I see how it is here.
Calling you out.
Yeah, that'll teach you.
So I have an internship where I take x-rays, and today and yesterday were like bad for people, but good for me, because the more people that fall and fracture stuff, the more work I get to do. So, dude, today and yesterday were like freaking hardcore. I don't know what's in the air or in the water or something, but like I took so many shoulder fractures. I saw my first compound fracture today. Bone poking out of the skin, blood everywhere. And for once, they didn't say send them to CT. They said we need X-rays, and I was like, cool.
Do you really need an X-ray if the bone's sticking out?
Yeah, just
Like,
use
you
your
can see
eyes.
that shit's broken.
That's what I said. I was like, well, I better not be off on this one because I can literally see the bone that I need.
Yeah.
Yikes. So how many times have you taken x-rays before today?
Tons.
Okay,
But usually the bones aren't poking out.
Yeah, sure.
Nice.
But that was your first compound fracture, but you have lots of experience taking x-rays. That's
sure.
crazy. That's crazy, dude. Was that like the grossest thing you've seen in your entire internship, bar none?
Actually, what anyone will tell you is that like ulcers are like the worst, or like necrotic tissue. Like the smell and the look of it is just so gross. That's honestly worse than like bone sticking out and blood and stuff.
Yeah, that's real upsetting.
Yeah,
that's fair. We don't. That's like your own mortality, just personified and shoved right in your face. Like, if you ever want to just be reminded that you are in fact a water balloon with a bone structure that is capable of rotting from the inside, just look at an ulcer, and that's gonna bum you out.
Yeah.
Also,
just have a nice
more of a
long
fun
talk
fact.
with my mother about her osteonecrosis of the jaw.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
That'll make you feel real good.
I'm not going to do that. What was your fun fact, Colin?
All right. More uplifting note.
Thank you.
I've noticed that the nurses in the ED are like, they're like your adrenaline junkies. So a lot of them have like pink hair, red hair, purple hair, lots of piercings. So I've noted that now. Having worked all over the hospital, like definitely the ED have the coolest nurses.
Nice.
Okay, good to know. Good fun fact. Thank you. And remind me not to start with you ever again, because that was super gross.
Hey, that's Fallout, man. This is the most fitting start to a Fallout episode.
Yeah,
Like,
you gotta be graphic for these updates, man.
That's the X-ray shooting scene.
It is actually, that's Colin is a professional VATS expert.
Yeah.
That
it was
doesn't
the ankle
usually
bone, by the way. It was the ankle bone that was sticking out.
Oh, lovely.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Shoot that right off.
Just shoot that shit. Give me that ghoul serum, dude. I don't even care.
You'll want that.
Give me that ghoul serum and subscribe me up for the lifetime supply of whatever medicine I need to get rid of it. Travis, what you got?
Oh geez.
Oh
geez. I've been coaching now for crazily enough, I think. Oh man, I don't know. Over half a year, which doesn't seem real. MMA fighters, how to wrestle. And one of them took me down.
No.
No, it's good. I'm happy about it. Like he
Okay.
finally,
Okay.
like it means they're getting better. And I made a mistake, like a small mistake, and he capitalized, and he like started to learn what I was doing, and I was like, all right, you're thinking on your feet. It's good stuff. So Fernando, one of my wrestlers, took me down, and the dude is one of the strongest human beings I've ever like met. So the better he gets, the more scared I get, because I'm like, you're already like two of me strength wise, and I've only been getting by on technique, and now you're getting the technique now. So in like a year's time, Fernando's gonna just be throwing me around.
I want to know, are you holding back one special move just in case he gets too powerful?
Always.
You got to keep that one in your pocket, right?
Always.
What
100%.
percentage of
Spirit
your full
bomb.
power are you using?
Yeah, there's a couple moves that they're like, hey, can we learn this? I'm like, no, I don't know how to actually teach that one. No. Mm-mm. No, definitely not. I don't hold back. I want them to eventually beat me, and I want to get better myself, but I just taught them the suplex too, and that was really fun. But really scary. Guys are pretty scared to learn the suplex if they've never done it. It's kind of a terrifying move, but yeah.
I've been doing that a lot with my 2 kids, and it's a lot easier when they're like 40 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can do this all day.
The suplex only gets harder as your opponents get heavier and you lose flexibility in your spinal cord.
Yeah.
No, that's great, Travis. Yeah, make sure you never go more than 60-70%, just so if you ever really got to have a showdown, and you scream at your forearms long enough, you're definitely going to have something left in the tank that
I'm walking in there Rock Lee style every day with the weights on my ankles and wrists.
That's good. You'll be
good.
fast when you drop those some bitches. It'll be so good.
Fast.
Hell yeah, dog. Okay, that's good. I'm glad to hear you're coaching them up right. Jeremy, what are you up to, pal?
What am I up to? Well, what I got going on is, this week my dog finally gets her stitches out from being spayed. So we're all really excited for that because she hates her jammies that we put her in to not bother her stitches. She hates them so bad. And yeah. And but the good thing about it is it slows her down so that we can catch her when she's being an asshole. And without those, it's like taking the weights off. She's just,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we definitely can't take her in a fight anymore.
Nah, she'll be back over 5,000, or over 9,000. That's going to be a problem. Yeah. That's going to be a
First
problem.
one, then the other. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad she's healing up okay. Glad she's doing good. She's a great little pup. So that's all good news.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to skip my personal update last week, and y'all suckers didn't even notice. I just skated on by.
Well, you don't get to this time.
Nope.
I might have gotten away with it if I'd have skipped right to Chris, put the attention on the guest, and just.
You don't think I would have said something?
I don't know, Chris. I don't know. You might have. You might have. You are sly. You are sly. But I'm happy to update y'all on what I did last weekend. Last weekend, I went to Hamilton.
Nice.
The musical?
Hell yes.
Nice.
Yeah,
I am obsessed with that musical.
Me too. I love it. Jeremy can attest. Jeremy and I used to live in CQ, Washington, as neighbors, and we drove all the way from CQ to Montana a couple times listening to Hamilton all the way through. I've
Just
listened
the
to
whole
it,
way
I
through.
think, once, 3 times in a row, end to end. And it's
right.
It's one of my favorites of all time. It was fantastic.
I usually turn it off like right after the first half because I'm not looking for all that heartbreak,
It gets so sad.
Yeah.
I don't usually listen
so
to
sad.
the one where Philip dies.
Yeah.
Or
Spoiler alert.
Onward. Yeah. I stop there. Yeah.
I go through Dear Theodosia and I just turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
I know our updates are going kind of long, but I got to share the story. Clayton sent me Hamilton. Like he texted me when it first came out and was like, bro, you got to listen to this musical. And I was like, I don't usually listen to musical albums, but I'm driving to see my ex-girlfriend at the time through like the worst blizzard Montana had seen in like 10 years. And I was like white knuckling it. And I was like, I need something to take my mind off of this road. So I played Hamilton, Psalm 1. got to like the end, and I'm just like pulling into Billings, Montana, out of a blizzard, bawling, just like ugly crying because I'm both like I lived, but I'm also like Philip.
Who will tell my story?
Yeah.
He was gonna blow them all away.
That was the first time I ever listened to Hamilton. Was in like this
Oh.
white knuckle, I think I'm gonna die situation. It was great.
Yeah.
That's the perfect time because in the eye of a hurricane there is quiet, and
Yeah.
you found some quiet there. You created your own little eye of the hurricane. But I went. Yeah, my wife and I went. We had kind of like mid-range seats, so nothing incredible seat-wise, but it was fantastic. They did awesome. Obviously, the original cast is long out of commission, but the traveling troupe from Broadway came to the Paramount in Seattle, so it was like a big proper production.
Nice.
It was awesome. Just and it was cool because I've listened to the original cast and I've watched the Netflix, like the movie of it, the recording of it,
Disney one,
whatever it was, and multiple times. And so I've heard that version so many times. It was really cool to see a new interpretation of it because that's what theater's all about. Is like taking this story that we've all know and we've all heard and we're familiar with and adding your own spin to it without changing any of the words. I think that's one of my favorite thing about theater, because you take you take other stories, you translate them into new mediums. We're going to talk about that today with Fallout, like translating a video game to a TV show. And it changes a lot always, Theater is cool because you keep the words, and no matter how you transform it or what new spin you put on it, the words are the same, the songs are the same. And Hamilton was absolutely beautiful. So if you have a chance to see it ever, definitely recommend it. But this current trip is really, really good. So if they're coming to your city, go check them out. The guy who plays Aaron Burr was actually the understudy for the original cast. So he did do a couple shows with the original cast, and he was absolutely phenomenal. So
Nice.
yeah, it was great. Really, really fun. That's my update. And then we're on to Chris. What's up, Chris?
Me. Hello. My name is Christopher O'Halloran. My friends call me Chris, and I am an actor turned author from Canada. Born in Winnipeg, but quickly made my way to BC at the age of 2, and I've been here ever since. Something that's exciting is I have a book coming out on May 15th through Lethe Press. I actually have it conveniently set up behind me. It's called...
They just fell there after you opened the box.
Yeah.
That's right. It's called Pushing Daisy. It's a horror novel, very much in the vein of like Stephen King. It's fast-paced. Hopefully it's emotional. I actually had someone read it. They finished it last night around, I think, 1 a.m. their time, and they were mad at me because they couldn't stop crying. And that's got to say it all, like that's, I might not even go through with the release because that's all the validation I need. If one person connects with it, that's it. Shut it down.
Nice. And what a good review.
Better take your victory lap now.
That's right.
That's like when I called Clayton and I was like, your short story scared me. He was like, oh, good.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the best thing you can get is an emotional reaction from a reader. Anger is great in horror. We love when readers are mad at us because that's generally one of the things that just is a byproduct of the horror genre.
Right. And I think I might run into that a little bit because my protagonist is quite a dick. So
sure.
I hope people don't think that that's me. That's very much not me.
Right,
so
what they say.
That's right.
I was going to say it really is in the vein of Stephen King then, if the protagonist is a terrible person.
Yeah, exactly.
Are they an actor turned writer from Canada?
They are a session musician.
Okay, totally different.
Yeah, that's
totally
different. That's
Yeah,
like a whole other guy.
Way different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Artists aren't the same across the board at all.
No.
No similarities. So good. Well, that's awesome, Chris.
Definitely not all psychopaths.
we are stoked to have you on the show. Everybody, keep an eye out for Pushing Daisy. It's coming out in May, and we will talk about it again at the end with some links, and we'll tell you where you can find Chris and everything. But before we do that, we're going to do the rest of our entire ass episode, and we're going to start that with Forced Enrollment, which is our debate section where we roll 2d20s. The high roll will defend. Fallout, our topic for tonight. That is Fallout, the Amazon TV show. 17 Emmy nominated show, which is just bananas. Good for them, whether you like it or not. And if you roll low, you will have to attack. If you roll high, you'll have to defend, just for anyone who doesn't know the game. But that's how we're going to do it. Travis, I believe you have a dice for Chris. I have my dice that Jeremy 3D printed me for my birthday. This giant ass orange dice.
Oh, nice.
Right?
Yep.
Thanks, Jeremy. Shout out. I roll this every.
It's not loaded at all.
It does roll really well, so I'm actually not sure. I may have to.
I'm
All right,
actually
Chris.
being honest.
I'm rolling for you now. I'm rolling for you now.
All right,
rolling.
let's go. Let's go.
That wasn't great.
Well, it's not loaded. It can't be.
Is it worse than mine?
Probably. It's a 2.
Oh yeah, I got an 8.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
What
Man, the
trash
dice
rolls?
really came to my defense there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
That's
like,
the
well,
time.
We'll give you this one, Jeremy. We'll give you this one.
Because
All
like
right.
3 times in a row, it rolled plus 16.
Yeah.
It was doing good. Well,
All
it
right.
failed tonight.
Well, Chris, you're going to start us off as the defender. I have your 10-minute timer. Make this a clean debate. Are you both ready?
Ready.
I am ready.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, Fallout, the TV series, is one of the greatest masterpieces of all time, and I feel secure in saying that even with just one season under its belt. It has such a great source material from the top-down game that I didn't play to the first-person shooter game, which I did play. Fallout 3 was actually the first present, I think so. I think the first present I got from my wife back when I was 15. And it blew me away from then on. Since then, I've played Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, the mobile game. And Fallout has such rich lore that they drew on perfectly for the TV show. Gone are the days where adaptations of video games are, some garbage from Uwe Bowl that you can just toss in the trash. These days, you have such great shows like The Last of Us, Fallout, a third one.
Others.
Others. Not Halo, but I'm sure there's another one out there if you scrounge hard enough. You know what? Maybe there isn't. Maybe this is such a rare occurrence that we need to celebrate the moments where we do get a win. And Fallout is a win. From the main character of Lucy, her naivete is the perfect entry point to this wasteland, this irradiated. Where is it? Where is it set? I can't remember. California? Is it California?
Yeah.
California.
This irradiated California, the new California Republic. The flag with the two-headed bear on it. The lore is just so rich that you can really plummet for season upon season, which we saw at the end when we got a little taste of New Vegas. Beyond that, you have the character of Lucy, who is, just super charming and super pure of heart. Such a great contrast with this evil world that literally forces her to saw a man's head off in the first episode. And then you have Walton Goggins' character of the Ghoul, and he lost his nose, but he still has that magnificent forehead. He's a sharpshooter. He's gruff. He's the perfect foil to these two naive characters, really. If you who's the guy? Magnus? I think Magnus is the fella
Maximus.
Maximus, that's right. Maximus in the power armor. So you have these characters coming together, playing off each other. You have the Brotherhood of Steel. You have Moldaver and her crew. There's literally no place that this game can't go. This show can't go, excuse me. I have kids stomping above my head, jumping on a leaky roof. I have a bucket down though. I have a bucket down. No worries. So you have these characters in this amazing setting. You have the writers who are jumping back and forth from past to present and really setting the stakes for this world. You have Lucy trying to protect her bunker. Are they called bunkers? Vaults. Protecting the vaults. It's been a while since I watched this, but it's all coming back. You have her looking for her dad. You have her worried about her brother. You have her possibly falling in love with Maximus, not Magnus. And it's really, you really don't know where it's going to go. Like, you don't expect a love story in the apocalypse. You don't expect the ghoul to, start helping this girl that he kidnapped. You don't expect a supermarket that's filled with ghouls run by a terrifying robot that's there to harvest your organs. You don't expect lake monsters to jump out and steal the severed head that you're trying to deliver to rescue your dad. Like, you start talking about the plot lines of this show, and it's insane. It makes no sense, but the way that they pull it off has you clicking the play button as soon as that episode is over. It has you hitting it up for that dopamine. And I'm super pumped for season 2. I hate that these shows take so long to make because, I'm ready for that next one as soon as the first season ends. And this is a lot of talking, and I appreciate you listening. Let me pivot to the history of Fallout. No, what's another? There are so many incredible aspects of this show. You have the characters, like I said, the setting, like I said, the plot, like I said, the award shows. You have the actors showing up and looking incredible and being super charming. There's really nothing that I can't say about Fallout. The title, it's so simple. It's 7 letters, excuse me. And that's really all the letters you need to tell the story of this show. You're going to be experiencing fallout, not only of this nuclear war, but emotional fallout. You're going to be falling in love. You're going to be laughing. You're going to be crying. You're going to run into chicken fuckers, and you're not going to know how to feel about that. You're gonna love that this guy is rescued, and then you're gonna learn that he's been, assaulting chickens. And what do you do? What do you do? How do you live with that fallout in your heart, in your soul? And
well, I will say this, Chris. I will say, well, Fallout, it's a long word. 7 letters is a lot of letters for one word. And that might be the most complex thing about this show. Fallout has no fucking stakes. Okay? That's what drives me crazy about this show. The first thing I hate about it, and this is just number 1. I got a whole list here, this entire page of stuff. Here's the first one. No stakes whatsoever. All the main characters are fucking bulletproof, and it drives me crazy. Nobody dies. Nobody consequential in this entire series dies. An entire first season, you're not going to kill a single person that matters to me. You don't kill Ghoul. You don't kill Lucy. We spoil things on this show, everybody, but don't worry, because nothing matters in Fallout, because nobody fucking dies and nothing matters at all. Everybody who you care about, they're fine. All right? So despite this being the nuclear holocaust, you essentially have Lord of the Rings principles where all the main characters are super safe. Travis, fuck off. It's true. Now, here's my biggest beef with Fallout as translation from the video game. in the video game. Now, look, I'm not trying to be a game cloak or a book cloak as we were once accused of being, but there was something good about the game, which that it relied on geopolitical complexity to summarize why the Great War happened. All the countries were at fault. It was the Great War. It was a world war. It was the geopolitical climate of the entire world coming together and imploding and causing the destruction of all humanity. Humanity's collective failure. This show cheapens that. Not only cheapens it, completely destroys it by just putting Vault Tech as the one bad guy. Vault Tech, one company, owning everything and single-handedly setting off the apocalypse and thereby undermining all the complexity and nuance that was so rich in the video game. It changes this from a blatantly anti-capitalist from a subtle, nuanced exploration of humanity's collective failure to a blatantly anti-capitalist propaganda show. Which, look, we all hate capitalism right now. Like, I get that, but like, come on. Like, this is just like so in my face and obvious and surface level that I really got no respect for it. I got no time for it. And then my last really big, another really big thing I hate about this. She gets her finger cut off and she like barely fucking flinches. Come on, bro. That scene drove me crazy when he cuts her finger off. Colin, you saw Compound Fracture the other day. Like, how was that person doing? Like, they were certainly not having a fucking conversation. They were certainly not just sitting there being like, oh yeah, that's basically fine. Let's carry on with the episode. That was some bullshit. Okay? That's just one example of many occasions in this series where just because movie happens, which listeners of the show, you know I hate because movie. It's when something happens just for the convenience of the movie, and it happens all the time in the show.
Beer of the week.
Beer of the week. Everybody shut up.
Yep, we're done. We're done.
Hang on, that wasn't 10 minutes.
That was
That's
10
totally
minutes.
10 minutes.
That was
That was
10
10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I had to cut you off, because you went for 6 minutes.
I thought I had 10 minutes and you had 10 minutes.
Oh, no.
we didn't explain that
Nah,
one.
man.
That's all
You
right.
saw me reach it. You should have said something.
I kind
I
of
thought it was
loved it.
only strengthening my side. So.
I thought,
It was pretty good. Yeah.
and I was thinking like this might be the first filibuster we have on fermented fiction. I was a fan.
It was great, Chris.
Great.
It was great.
Okay.
All right. So, Colin, do you have facts? I have facts. If you have
Beer
facts.
first.
Oh, beer first. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we do the
Yep.
drinkies.
Now that I've said it, I'll just start. I thought a cheap tropical beer is the best vibe.
You did
for-
Voodoo Ranger, didn't you?
I did not.
Oh, I almost
went-
did. Just because
I went
Fallout character.
Cheaper. I went cheaper and went Pacifico.
Oh,
That's what I got. This
that's
is my
not.
second favorite bad beer. PBR is number 1. Pacifico's number 2. I like Pacifico.
Okay, look, a cheap beer doesn't mean a bad beer. Pacifico is a perfectly good beer.
It's fine. It's a fine beer.
Yeah, for $12 a 12-pack.
Yeah. What's wrong with being fine?
Nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. That's why I have 6 of them
Exactly.
in my fridge.
By definition. Okay.
These are the last beers I'll drink before Lent. Obviously, I like Pacifico.
Yeah. Fallout
All right.
is built on the premise of fine being enough.
Yeah, fine's enough. Colin.
All right. Well, great minds think alike, don't they? Because I have the Voodoo Ranger Juicy
I knew someone would bring
IPA.
it.
Well, there it is.
Also, I mean, a brilliant tropical beer, and also there's a skeleton wearing a hat on the cover with like
Yeah.
a 70s jacket, floral jacket.
Yeah, I mean, look at that guy. If that
Good
guy's
shit.
not in Fallout, I don't know who is.
Jeremy.
Right.
What are you doing? What do you have?
Who, me?
Please tell me you didn't mix top shelf whiskey with something vile again.
Well,
on the edge of
now
my
that
seat
you
for sure.
mention it,
Oh no.
continuing the precedent I set last week of
Uh,
pouring sparkling ice into things that Travis would probably rather I didn't.
mm,
What I have is this lemon lime sparkling ice with
Oh.
this Roku gin, and it's pretty good. Okay.
That
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm not a gin guy. My wife would be offended, but I'm not a gin guy. So that's
You know what I saw in Costco today? I saw Starburst sparkling ice.
Yeah, it's not
Okay.
good.
It's not good.
It's real bad.
Okay,
real
good,
bad.
good. I didn't buy it because it's like $30 a case or something. But
Sparkling ice. Come on and sponsor the show already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can mix your drinks with more whiskey that should not be mixed. Clayton,
I'll pour that shit into anything.
what are you
Yeah.
drinking, Clay?
I love it. I actually feel like that's very topical for Fallout as well.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
practically
what's-
radiation.
What's Fallout without, just the complete death of an entire culture and
Yeah.
stuff rising from the ashes? That's what I'm here for.
I agree.
It's all a metaphor.
Jeremy's drinks wander out of the proverbial vault. I'm representing, as usual, try to represent a local brewery. This is Rainy Days. They're from Aberdeen, down by Westport, where I like to go surfing. So I drink Rainy Days a lot. This is some Mr. Mustachio. And I'll be completely honest, it's an IPA. It's a spruce tip IPA. And I only got it because this guy looks like he would be a Fallout villain right here.
Yeah.
Mr. Mustachio. He's up to something, dude.
Yep.
And he looks like he'd also survive the apocalypse.
Probably with that mustache.
Absolutely, dude.
He's
That
up
thing,
to no good for sure.
radiation proof.
Radiation proof. Chris,
Yeah.
what do you got?
so I have no drink, no alcoholic drink, I should say. I have some delicious water from the hills of British Columbia, Canada, and I thought I would bring it on because we're in a trade war, I believe, between your country and mine. And
Right.
Please win for our sake.
I hope so, because what we have here is some of the most I'm not going to tip it over and show you because I'll end up spilling on my laptop, but you're going to have to take my word for it. This water is clear. This water is delicious. And I'm not drinking it from the tap because the filter on my fridge broke. Those are just two coincidences. I would drink it from the tap anyway.
Of course.
It's from your roof, though, right? It's from your leaking roof.
From your
Well,
leaking roof.
We don't want to waste anything.
That is the
know?
aforementioned bucket, I assume.
Yeah, I just stick it
Is
under
that the most
leak and
British Columbian thing you can do?
drink roof water. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
That's
smoke
awesome.
weed. But
I thought it might have been the Fallout,
Sure.
like the Fallout theme of like you need water out in the wasteland. That
you
guy
do need water.
that guy guzzles that whole bottle when she offers it to him,
hmm And then later on, she drinks from a puddle. And, if you're doing that in BC, you have a better chance of surviving.
Absolutely. I fully agree with that.
Then California,
And
definitely.
LA, yeah.
That rainbow water.
All right. Now, Colin, do you have facts?
Yeah, Colin, do ya?
Yeah.
Do
on
I?
now.
You bet your ass I do.
All right.
So one interesting fact about Fallout, the TV series, is that 60% of the viewers were outside the U.S., which I thought was pretty impressive. And then I thought about how many more people live outside the U.S. than in the U.S., and I was like, maybe that's not as a crazy fact as I originally thought. It's just some American prejudice there. But
Yeah.
a lot of them, interestingly, are like from the UK and from South America was particularly popular.
Do you think that's
And-
because Ella Purcell is British? You think they're like representing? They're like, that's
Mm.
that's our girl.
Yeah.
Could
Look
be.
at her. Look at her go. Yeah, probably.
I think she's British. She has an
But
accent.
the series was released on April 11th, 2024, and amassed 3 billion minutes viewed. It's actually the most popular show premiere after The Lord of the Rings of Power season 1.
Okay.
And then the dynamic duo behind it is Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy. They were behind HBO's Westworld. You probably know Christopher Nolan from stuff like The Dark Knight, or one of my favorites, Memento, great philosophy movie, sci-fi.
Yep.
And their
Good
company is Kilter Films. And sounds like Todd Howard, the creator of, the CEO of the Fallout series, basically he turned down a lot of movie contracts, and I think Christopher Nolan showed up and he was like, all right, in 2020.
That tracks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This guy knows what he's doing.
He's all right.
You mean, yeah, Jonathan Nolan or Christopher Nolan?
Jonathan Nolan.
Yeah, okay.
Chris might have been there. We don't know.
He might have been. He might have been supporting his brother.
Yeah.
Also, there's a lot of really cool behind the scenes stuff. So I guess part of LA was actually technically the skeleton coast of Namibia.
Okay.
Fun
sure.
fact, which Christopher Nolan really likes to film there. They also filmed in Colorado and a lot in New York City. I guess there was a Staten Island Supermart that was repurposed for Super Duper Mart.
Interesting.
And then they also basically a ton of stuff. They tried to use as much real, not CGI as possible. So
Yeah.
I guess the Pip Boys were actually iPhones that they put in a special case, and then they used an app that's like a Pip Boy app. So that's how they got
Nice.
those working.
Hell yeah,
And
that's
then-
a cosplay move right there.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah,
That's
the
not
T60
foreshadowing.
power suits, those were made by Legacy Effects and were basically all completely real. There's no CGI.
Oh, cool.
They even used a real jetpack for the jetpack scenes, and they had a stuntman
What?
using real jetpacks and connected to wires and pulling them around on a crane and stuff.
Wow.
That's
So
awesome.
a lot of that is actually
Yeah,
real.
it's cool.
Sick.
I will
They
say
also made
the effects
props.
look great. The
Yeah.
effects look great.
Yeah, a lot of those props so there's the Yagwai creature and the head and the ghouls, and they actually made like real models of a lot of them and basically used a lot of CGI, but based on the models. And they even got some of those animations directly from Fallout 76. So they worked out a deal to use assets from the video games in the movies, or at least as animation sort of modeling purposes and for the real set design.
Cool.
All right.
Those are your fermented facts.
I got a few to back up his fermented facts.
Go for
First,
it.
Clayton mentioned it was
Good. I'm not all the way fermented yet.
no. Clayton mentioned it was nominated for 16 Emmys. It only won 2: Outstanding Emerging Media Program and Outstanding Music Supervision, which I think was an obvious, like it definitely had the vibe from the video games.
Mhm.
Soundtrack is banging.
Shogun ran away with like everything.
Oh, that was the Shogun season.
Yeah,
Ah.
it had no chance.
Yeah.
Couple Ella Purnell facts since we brought her up. She is from London, so you are correct. She is British. She got
Nice.
her start in one of my favorite, not one of my favorite adaptations, but an adaptation of one of my top 5 favorite books of all time called Never Let Me Go. She played young Ruth.
No way.
Yep.
I didn't know she's in that.
Which was really cool because I love that book. The movie was okay. They did a pretty decent job, but it doesn't come close to the story.
Oh, the book is amazing.
The book is amazing. And then she just has been killing it with the video game adaptations.
Mhm.
She voices Jinx in
Jinx.
Arcane, which is a huge success
That's pretty
in the
sick.
video game sphere. We've talked about it on the show before, and the last little extra one I have is I always like to advertise these. This is one of those shows that had one of those fun little call this number from the fake show and you actually get someone to pick up things. I don't know if it's still running, but if you call the Vault Tech number shown in the commercial, 213-258-2858, there's an interesting recording waiting for you. And I always love when shows and
Wait,
ads
what's
and-
the number again? Let's call it right
crap.
now.
Yeah, did you think we weren't going to
Well,
take a minute to do
We should
this?
just call it.
let me get it
Yeah,
real
just
quick.
call it.
I almost have it, but I always love when shows and stuff do that. There's been a couple music videos where they've done it, and I always appreciate it. It's pretty fun little gag, I think. Okay, here, where did it go? Got it. 213-258-2858. Did it pick up? We're doing it live. What was it?
This is it.
Like, we can't hear it. We can't really hear it.
Just sounds like screaming.
Yeah, it sounds like screaming.
It's just screaming.
Yeah, it's just screaming.
just
That's
screaming.
okay.
All right. Yeah.
And
I
it
love
hangs up. That's all it is. It's a guy screams for what
Beautiful.
looked like 12 seconds.
Nice.
And then it hangs up.
Love that. Colin, what do you got?
All right, one more fact, which is I remember when it came out that Walter Goggins was kind of always known as a like best supporting actor, and he like never got any lead stuff ever. So it was a big deal that like that was his moment, was in Fallout, and he did get nominated for Outstanding Lead Actor in the Primetime Emmy Awards for that.
Yeah.
Nice. He deserves it, I think.
He's
Yeah,
Yeah,
awesome.
for sure.
Walter
Everybody
Goggins
thought that. Everyone was
rules.
like, he deserves it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because if you
He's
look at
awesome.
his nominations and his wins, they're all supporting.
Mm.
Yeah,
He's
he's
the best
because he
supporting
rules.
actor. Oh yeah.
All right. Well, now we will launch into, unless Jeremy or Clay or Chris, did you have any facts we missed?
Nope. Not that I
Okay.
know.
I ain't got nothing.
All right, Clay, you're gonna
Yeah.
kick us off.
Mhm.
You were on the attack. Did you lie, or are you that passionately against Fallout, the television series?
No, I'm not. I'm not that passionately against too many things. I love genre fiction too much to hate really much of it to that extent. However, I do basically agree with what I said, just not quite as passionately, perhaps. I do think the games have a lot more nuance. The games have a lot more geopolitical intrigue in the background of the world building that doesn't really come through in the show. We're frozen, so I'm
Mm.
gonna wait.
We can still hear you. We can still hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. It's pretty good.
Yeah, you're just frozen screen wise. Well, he's frozen. He'll come back to us. Chris, did you lie?
Yes. No, I didn't. Bye, Clay. I actually really loved it. This is probably the first show in a while that me and my wife like really sat down and watched it. Like as soon as we put the kids to bed, we would look forward to putting on like 3 episodes. We'd go on to the next one. And I to be honest, I didn't know that we were gonna have such a lively debate, and so I didn't prepare anything. I don't know if that came through, but
No, I think you did great.
but I did start writing down Clay's points because I thought I would rebut them. This isn't mine. This is from I think my younger son.
Nice.
My older son, he's a better drawer than that.
Mm.
But yeah, like the no stakes. Like I see where you're going with the no stakes, but Moldaver dies. So
Yeah, we don't care about her still. But continuing what I was trying to say before I lost my connection. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah, I do still believe the video games had a much richer world. They had a lot more nuance and geopolitical intrigue that is lost when you put one single company as the evil guys, and then it kind of puts all the evil in one place. And I kind of didn't like that, because something I liked about Fallout was it's like World War II. Like you can't pin the evil in any one place. Sure, there is Nazi Germany, which is like terrible. There is imperialistic Japan, which was terrible, but like everybody did terrible shit in World War II and leading up to World War II and in World War I and in the colonial period leading up to that led to World War I's arm race. Like that, like all of the Allied countries were terrible before World War I. And that all sort of paled in comparison to Hitler in a way, but like everybody was shitty in like the world wars. Like, and like if you do your history studying, you realize that. And you have, I hate that we lose that because we go, there's one bad guy and it's Voltec. But that aside, that was one of the bigger like overarching points that kind of bugged me. I do honestly think that there aren't many stakes in this series. nobody dies. Like I am a fan of meaningful death, impactful death. I think that is important to establish stakes, and I just don't see it in this show. I don't think there was anybody I cared about, anybody who I developed an actual empathy with or like an actual connection with who actually died. Like literally not even that one squire dies, right? Who
Yeah,
like
it's an arrow in the neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was hilarious. And he was a fun, like comic relief kind of character who ultimately backstabbed Maximus. And that relationship was cool and everything. But like when he got shot through the neck, I was like, okay, yeah, somebody's actually going to die. No, not even him. So now he is a ghoul. So like he's got bad things coming his way for sure.
Yeah.
Down the line.
Yeah, that foot, man. Not gonna forget that foot.
Dude, that foot was gnarly. I love that. I mean, that was some great practical effects. You know, makeup had a great day doing that foot.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. I love when it heals too. The toes still like all crooked. It's just really funny.
I know someone like that actually. His fingers are a little, they work,
Sure.
but I don't know how.
That's crazy. But yeah,
Dude, I can't tell you how many patients I get like that. Like full on dislocated hip. They're like, I gotta stand up to pee. It's like, what? And then they do it. And I'm like, I don't know how this is possible. Or they like just don't. Some guy breaks his leg and then just doesn't see a doctor, and we see him 20 years later for arthritis. And it's like, bro, your knee, you should have seen a doctor 20 years ago.
Yeah, that is a thing. They need to find that serum guy because he can help them out. But aside from those couple of things, like, and again, I understand that we're translating from a much larger medium, which is a video game series. And I mean, Fallout 3 alone has how many hours of gameplay? I have no idea. I've played it for hours and hours. I love that game. That's one of my favorite games ever. New Vegas is one of the best RPGs ever made, in my opinion. Story-wise, it's fucking fantastic. And you can't cram that all into one series of a TV show. Now they have a TV show, so that's a positive. Like, and they have now introduced New Vegas. We know that's coming. So that's cool. Like, they're leading us down a road that could lead to higher stakes and stuff. And I mean, you can make the argument that like it's not that uncommon for the first season of a show to not kill everybody for sure. It's not Game of Thrones, right? Yeah. Even Game of Thrones, it doesn't kill everybody season one. It kills one major character really. And that establishes those stakes. I would have liked to see something similar. I would have liked to see somebody big die, but nobody does. So that was a bit of a downside for me, but my plus sides are definitely there. If I would have argued for this, I would have argued I love the balance of humor and drama in this show. It's very funny, and the wit is in the dialogue. I think it does a good job with that dialogue too. It kind of has this like 50s, 60s feel to it, like kind of a snappy dialogue style, but with a new age flavor. So like it incorporates that like sort of snappy dialogue of the 50s and 60s where this would have taken place. But it also has those moments like that are more common today where we like to live in that irreverent levity of like the common moment, like where she goes into the store and she's says she's a vault dweller and the lady's like, Barb, you gotta come in here, you know. It's like those moments that are just like too real that they're like cringy. That's like modern humor, I feel like. And they have a really healthy mix of both those things. They do a good job of like in the action sequences making it feel like a Fallout game. You have like the headshots and the explosive gore and kind of the VATS, right? The funky weapons and that, and they don't beat you over the head with it. They don't do a ton of slow motion. They do like a couple slow-mo shots in the whole series, which is nice. But then I feel that's enough that I feel like that's. And like Ghoul, if you look at his bandolier, he's got all these random ass bullets, like, which is kind of a cool detail. All his bullets are like different sizes and shapes and shit. And he actually uses different ones for different purposes throughout the series, which is fun. That's very Fallout. You're just collecting things all over the place, whatever you can find.
Mhm.
I thought they did a great job with the Brotherhood of Steel. I love the Knight Squire relationship. That felt so real to me. And it felt like what it would really be like, you know, to be a squire to a knight. And I don't think we always get to see that. And that's in like a medieval setting or in the Fallout setting, which is basically back to medieval because that's the society they now live in. Is like, this is a very medieval society.
Mhm.
And I love that first scene where the whole reason his knight dies is because he's like, I'm bored, I want to fucking shoot something. And then Mark ends up running to a bear and getting his ass kicked. And he's like, fuck. And he's like running away. It's so funny. Like, that's such a great scene to just open it all up. It's so humanizing because you see these like Brotherhood of Steel guys in their huge armor.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But
it's such a
inside of that
gamer
armor,
move.
Yeah.
oh, totally. And
Even
inside
the-
that armor, they're just humans, you know?
Yeah, just this guy from Boston.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you're fucked, right?
Just a
I was-
prick from Boston.
I was very surprised it wasn't Bill Burr.
It would have been great if it was.
I thought
Yeah.
it was.
Burr kicks
I was like,
ass.
is that Bill Burr?
Vibes. You know they wanted him for that.
They wanted Bill Burr.
Yeah.
Who's
for
that
sure.
actor though? He was on Friends. He had a sitcom for a while. I can't remember his name, but he's super
I will
funny.
I will investigate. Colin, what do you got?
Oh, quick thing adding to what Clay said, which is that they filmed it with a real film camera to get the Technicolor vibe and cinematography. So that was an aspect of it to evoke the 50s and 60s.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Also,
Can I-
the soundtrack is absolutely banging.
Yep.
I love the first time the soundtrack really got me, and this was where I was probably hooked into the show. Because to be completely honest, I hated the pilot the first time I watched it.
What?
I did. I hated it.
Mhm.
And I'm not entirely sure why. Looking back, I think it was a little too over the top for me. Maybe trying to sell me too hard on the fan service stuff. But I think that when I rewatched the whole series a second time, I was like, oh yeah, the pilot works. It establishes everything that they do throughout the whole series. So I take that back now, but I hated it when I first saw it. However, I was hooked into the show in episode 2 and they had that fight scene and the Johnny Cash song comes on. And that was just absolutely awesome because the soundtrack in the show is incredible. It's great. And it really utilizes the time period really well.
Mhm.
Michael Rappaport.
Michael Rappaport. That's right. Yeah.
Hey, it's your boy.
So funny.
Michael Rappaport. All right. So this leads to my first question, and I'll start with you, Chris,
Yes.
as our guest, and then everybody, please pitch in. I wasn't huge on the first 3 episodes. I haven't finished the season, but I have I'm picky about pacing, and that's kind of what I didn't love about the show. I didn't think it was super well paced, but I'm willing to be proven wrong and given another shot. But it leads to this ultimate big question of like, you have a television series that's adapting a game that is kind of deliberately paced. It's actually a problem I had with the game as well. I never could get into Fallout 3 because I just don't know why. I just don't get hooked by guns and RPGs. I get bored of shooting things. I would rather have like
just not your furniture, dude.
No, I would like swords and sorcery stuff. Swinging a sword, I think, is more entertaining for me for some reason. But so pacing in a television series where you have this tricky balance of you definitely want to establish character, you want to establish world. You only have 10 episodes to work, eight episodes to work with, but you also want to keep each episode entertaining. Like as writers, as creators, as people who've worked behind film and all of that, what is it about things that you find well paced that catches you? Like if you could try and pinpoint what you consider to be good pacing, what is it?
First of all, I wasn't aware that you hadn't finished the season. I would have definitely tried to avoid spoilers. But
No worries.
yeah, I'll agree that sometimes the pacing does slow down in Fallout. I remember specifically the scenes in the vault with her brother and her cousin / lover. I thought that
Yeah, they do
those
some cousin loving.
well, when you're in a vault, you know, you got to make do. I thought that those were a little slow. I wasn't as invested in those characters. I think if you have, I mean, like plot structure in a story, there's a lot of convention that, you know, you go with an action scene and a reaction scene, action scene, reaction scene. And I think that sometimes if you have too many of one type of scenes in a row, too much action, that can slow things down, too much reaction, too much talking, sitting around, no development. I think that can affect the pacing as well.
Mhm.
But you know, I love a good thriller. I think they take that formula, and you know, it might be predictable, but it's reliable, and it, for me, it works.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of a one that just came out on Amazon that I really love. I wouldn't call it like amazing, but it's a very fun like popcorn show. Is Reacher, and I think it's very very well paced. Like it balances that there will be an action scene, then there's like enough of a reaction of Reacher being a dick and like kind of witty, and then you get back to an action scene. And so I don't know. I love that balance that it did, but I'm not finding it in Fallout. And I think you have a good point there with action reaction being a crux of it. But does anyone else want?
Well, you know, I definitely agree that I'm just going to come out and say that this did fail my 3-episode test of whether a show is worth watching or not. And a lot of it was the pacing, because I found myself checking to see how much time was left so often in those first 3 episodes, where I'm like, sure, I do kind of want to see how Walton Goggins turned from a John Wayne-esque movie star to a gunslinging, slightly immortal Skeletor. Like, that seems worthwhile, but ultimately, it's a slog. And I think there are cinematic things that you can do to mitigate the pacing, where you just don't have stuff to fill long stretches of the runtime. You can, and I saw this done expertly with the first season of Sherlock, where it actually had a problem where the cinematography between scenes was so beautiful that I would get distracted, and like I would actually miss bits of dialogue from the show just watching how it was filmed, and I'd be like, oh man, shit, I gotta, and it would keep me engaged that way. But that's not something that Fallout did, which, you know, that you know,
I think they could have, you know, a section that really slowed down for me also was in the past. Just all that spy stuff. I think they could have maybe gave a little bit more material to Walton Goggins' wife. She felt, I don't know, she felt just like a little supportive. And I think that they could have made her, you know, like Clay says, a little more nuanced, a little bit more politically active, so that the ending makes more sense. But to Clay's point, you know, I kind of feel like nuance is a little bit of a past convention. Like right now, I don't think we have a lot of room for nuance. So we have to kind of see that the black and white, you know, the good guy, the bad guy. And I think that maybe we're stepping into a period where that's going to be more popular.
That was going to be my second question, is right to that. But if anyone else wants to talk about pacing before I ask that one, because I thought that was a really good point from both you and Clay.
Have you ever missed a shot in pool because you were trying too hard to set up the next shot? I feel like that might be kind of what they're doing here, right? Yeah. Like they've left themselves so much space to explore and to deepen the Fallout universe. Here, we have a lot of distance between how Ghoul went from his past self to his current self, and his past self being a very morally righteous person, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like an American veteran, a man who's not afraid to say like he's all right with being part of a capitalist country, even if that leads to the eventual downfall of the world. But he doesn't see it that way in his past life. And actually, I mean, I thought that conversation with him, and I think it was the character's name was Charlie Whitefeather or Charlie Whitetail. I can't remember his last name, but the Native American fellow. They had a great conversation about what happens when the cattle ranchers have more money than the town sheriff. The cattle ranchers run the town. And that was like kind of the whole metaphor for Vault Tech. They've left us so much space between what happened then and where we are now with his character, with the world. And I feel like that's what they need to expand on. But I think the first season would have benefited tremendously from fleshing more of that out in season 1 instead of leaving it for later. And that might be a big part of the pacing thing, why those past segments sagged so much for a lot of people.
Yeah,
I think that's
like they wrote with the understanding that they were having a season 2, and they were like, "Oh, we've got time."
I was just gonna say that has been, I think, a general problem. I think you can see a commonality with a lot of shows with streaming. Because back in the days of cable, like that second season wasn't guaranteed unless the viewership came for season 1. So you had to write for that big haymaker of a season 1 before you ever got that green light. Whereas now with streaming, we are literally seeing news drop of like episode 1 hits these high streaming numbers and season 2 has already been greenlit for a month. And it's like, okay, so they literally do know season 2 is coming and it's a guarantee. So why not write for the whole thing? And I think that does weaken.
Apple's like the worst offender in that realm.
Yeah, Apple's not been great with that, and Amazon hasn't either. I mean, Wheel of Time season 1 was real weak in my opinion. Lord of the Rings of Power, they literally spent the most amount of money on any TV production ever because they were guaranteed 3 seasons, and so they were like, "We're building sets for season 3 with this money," and it's like, we haven't even seen episode 1.
I'm probably only watching that show if we cover it.
Yeah, right.
We won't.
So that's really interesting. But at least
how dare you?
Second question.
Get in the comments.
Yeah, get in the comments. Talking to you, Badwater Bouldering, when you get back.
Stop these people.
Second question, back to Chris, because you brought it up. I would love to hear from you. This has been a common theme this season that I keep noticing with a lot of stuff, and that is when something kind of just bleeds the time that it's made in. And I think that was a bit of a downfall with Fallout with the villain thing, because I have an article pulled up here from Vulture, and Guardian also wrote one called "Every Movie Villain is a Tech Bro," and this was written in January 11th of 2022, and I don't think it's changed. And they list movies like Matrix Resurrection, Jason Bourne, Upgrade, The Old Guard, Free Guy, Batman vs Superman, Jurassic World, Ex Machina, Venom, Spectre, Don't Look Up.
Like, I mean, even going back to Iron Man 3. Well, I mean, the whole Iron Man series is basically the tech bro is the villain, so you can't really.
So I think that is
except
just
for the tech bro that is the protagonist.
Yeah, everyone's a tech bro. Hero, villain.
Go all the way back to the original Jurassic Park. John Hammond is like an 80s tech bro.
But
like, they didn't have computers yet to the same level yet, but like Jurassic Park's whole thing is the failure of computers, and that was just biotech. Like, he's still a tech bro.
But even in the Jurassic Park movie, they kind of dilute him down to like not really the villain. He's kind of just like a morally gray guy, where in the book he's like straight up.
I was going to say in the movie, sure. In the movie, sure, but not in the book.
In the movie, he's just like, oops, I did a thing.
I just wanted people to have fun.
He's just a harmless old guy.
I thought my grandparents were going to have, or my grandkids were going to have a great weekend.
Yeah. But the question in all of that is, does it take a? Now I'm losing the term. Does it take like a big trendsetter to shake us out of something that we're clearly stuck in like this? Or do you think it's something that trickles out slowly? Like the tech bro is the big thing right now for villains, but that's going to trickle out? Or is it going to be like the next big thing comes and that sets the new trend, and now every villain's going to be? Because I've seen that with trends in how movies are filmed. Like Jason Bourne Identity made every action film after it a shaky cam film.
Right.
Then John Wick made every action film after that a like choreographed one take.
Like steady cam, yeah.
Yep, steady cam. And now something's probably going to come along that shifts that momentum. But those are big shifts, and I wonder if you think that's the same with these trends in villains and in thematic like themes.
I mean, that's a huge question. You're kind of asking me to kind of predict the future of media.
What do you think you were coming on this show for, Chris?
Yeah, we
Now
need
you
you
were
to
a
answer the big
soothsayer.
questions. You
Yes.
think we can do that?
Here's the thing. I have all the answers. I
All
came up with them while working at a milk factory.
All
Oh,
right.
good.
Oh, good.
No, the truth is, I really don't know. I think overcoming the insurmountable is going to be such a huge part of narratives, because it has been such a huge part of narratives, from like David and Goliath to Beowulf and Grendel, all the way up. You have all these like the newest Marvel movie. You have Captain America, Anthony Mackie, going up against like the Red Hulk. You're always going to have the insurmountable and then the little person. So I guess the question is what is the insurmountable going to be? Because right now it is the corporations. That reflects the world we're living in, whether it's healthcare in your guys' neck of the woods, or the cell phone corporations in Canada. We hate them. Like, we can make our own Marvel movie about a little guy taking on Tellus.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what the next big guy is going to be.
And I guess to that, before the other guys pitch it, like, do you think it's, if I phrase it as a chicken before the egg question, just your personal opinion, do you think it's, does the media change before the society shifts, or does the society shift and the media follows along with it?
I think, yeah, society shifts, the media follows, definitely. Art reflects the world in which you live. And I don't know, maybe apocalyptic fiction is going to get a huge bump with, the way things are looking, or maybe we're going to look for escapism, and we're going to want some utopic kind of settings.
Yeah, I just watched an interview with the Breaking Bad writer, and it wasn't an interview. He accepted some award, and he basically said, "I wrote one of the best villains of all time, according to a lot of people, but I don't want to write villains anymore." He's like, "I think we need more heroes," and that his next thing is going to be a focus on good, which I was very interested to hear that from him. But Clay.
Well, and I think Fallout reflects some of that attitude shift, because we've definitely been in a period of anti-heroes, of darkness, of grim, dark sort of settings, right? I mean, there's been a lot of popular shows in the last few years that have focused on, Breaking Bad being one of them. Better Call Saul, that is a spinoff. It goes in a very dark direction as well. Killing Eve, another good example of very dark anti-hero kind of narrative. And those are super, super popular right now. But I think we are kind of trending towards people want to deliver a message that things are going to be okay. And I think Fallout does that. The Fallout has, as I said in my debate, it has a very blatant anti-capitalist message in it. But it also has a message of like how even the people who benefited from that capitalism can come out and be good people. And like Lucy's one of those people, right? She comes from a place of privilege. She comes from the vault. She definitely had everything you could want in terms of an upbringing, but she comes out as a good person, and she's coming out to like try to make the world genuinely a better place. And on the other side of the coin, you have Maximus, who came from the shittiest circumstances you can imagine. He grew up in the New California Republic, and he was there when it was literally nuked. And the only reason he survived is because the Brotherhood of Steel happened to be there. But then he had to grow up as a squire, which is not an easy way to grow up. Like, he got his ass kicked all the time. He was treated like shit, more or less an indentured servant, until the day he got his own armor by happenstance, right? So you kind of see from both sides of the coin, like, good people are still out there, even in the wasteland. Good can prevail, and it's worth fighting for. So And I think that is why this show doesn't kill a bunch of people. It doesn't have a super bleak take on everything. It kind of like has that chipper, uppity tone to it, with a lot of humor, despite the darkness of the subject matter, because I think that's important to the showrunners.
Yeah. Colin?
Yeah, I mean, on that point, like the like Silo, I just kept seeing Fallout because I've grown up playing Fallout games, and there's so much in the TV series Silo that's like, I kept telling my wife, like, that's just Fallout. Like, that's Fallout too. Like, this is also from Fallout.
I'm curious to read the books then, because I wonder if the books take heavily from Fallout.
I've been reading the books partly just because I want to know how much Hugh Howey stole from Fallout. And it seems like not a lot. I think it was a TV show idea.
Did you see the newest Hugh Howey post though? He just released a poetry book that was all AI. So I think maybe he's comfortable with a little bit of thievery.
Yeah, right. Well, what's funny is that I know a writer who's a very good friend of Hugh Howey and has been for years, and he was doing AI. So I bet they talked about it.
Ooh, there you go. Yeah.
Although his series that is all AI written and is a audiobook is all free. So I feel like it's all right.
Okay, yeah.
That thin line. It's that thin line.
But I wanted to say that the dance from Wednesday, the show. Remember Wednesday Addams and the dance, right? I think the conversation has shifted now where these giant streaming companies like Netflix will do something that is a sure bet, like they're going to get a multi-million-dollar contract for Seinfeld or for Parks and Rec or for The Office, and that's like their go-to moneymaker, or maybe debatably Amazon with Rings of Power and these franchises. Like they want to lock it down from everybody else. But then there's also, they want to do something that's going to be the next big thing, and they're willing to do these 1 and 2 season shows that just they cancel and cancel and cancel because they're looking for something that's going to hit on like TikTok, you know. And like Wednesday was huge, and like I think every streamer is looking at like, is there a show that has a powerful young teenage character with like a dark background, and like, because they're doing that, and it's like they want to hit the trend.
Yeah. Clay, I know your hand was first, but Jeremy, you haven't talked in a while, so you jump in there, and then Clay.
Oh boy, I am happy to cut the line. And this is, but it's good because I get to answer your question, Travis, and then I get to talk about Clay's point with the characters, which is great. And I think that, to reference back to your question, the big bads will always be defined by the time they existed until something else succeeds, and everybody's going to copy that, and that's just going to reset the cycle. It's going to happen because fiction takes a long time to create. So it's not going to be immediately whenever tech bros became the default bad guys after Russians or people with posh British accents. That's just something that, because a film takes 6 months to a year to make, or because a TV show takes even longer, or a book or whatever, it takes a while. So it's just going to jog sweatily behind that. And I think Fallout is no exception, but I do have something to say about the characters here. And I don't remember what it's about, but I know that Clay mentioned it. So, let's talk about the characters. Because, by the end of episode 3, for people who are not regular viewers or listeners of the show, which I'm going to assume is everybody, I give every show 3 episodes to tell me if it's worth watching to the end of the season or not. Because I have things to do. I'm an adult, okay? And by the end of episode 3 with Fallout, I am actively rooting against 2 of the 3 main characters. And the only character I'm rooting for is the dog. So you have Maximus. He starts off just full psychopath. It might as well be Voldemort. Just like, something bad happened. I didn't do it, but I wanted it to happen. And then, Lucy starts off seeming like a very interesting moral person in an unfamiliar / immoral world. And then she beheads a guy because he asked her to.
To be fair, he was already dead.
He was already dead.
He was already dead.
Okay.
Shout out,
We didn't
by the
anything.
way, short shout out to Calcade's Fate of the Fallen. If anyone's read that fantasy novel, that reminded me so much of that. It's like the hero sidekick beheads the hero to like take it to the king and be like, hey, your hero died, like the world's gonna end now. I loved it, and that brought me right to that. But Jeremy.
But that's largely my point. The things that I am interested on have nothing to do with the show, and they're actively working against what it seems like the show is trying to do, at least for the first 3 episodes. I have not, and probably will not, watch more episodes of this show.
Play, and then I have a question about the characters that we will start with Chris again.
Yeah, and I mean, the only other thing I was going to say is that it's important to keep in mind, just as a viewer or a reader, everything created in art is filtered through the artist. So, we are also writing about what we're scared about specifically. And I think a lot of writers right now are scared of tech. More than probably ever in history, and that's saying something. Writers have always been scared of tech, all the way back to Asimov and Heinlein. They were talking about tech all the time. Like that was sci-fi, early sci-fi. The dangers of how quickly tech was evolving, and they had no idea. And Michael Crichton. I mean, every Michael Crichton book is essentially
the last chapter of Lord of the Rings is all about like anti-industrialism, and like Saruman is taking over the Hobbiton with the technology. But so yeah, way back.
Travis, you know full well I'm never going to read the end of the Lord of the Rings.
I know, Jeremy, but Clayton.
Oh my God.
Well, yeah, and we saw that. I mean, World War II happened because of industrialism largely. So that all makes sense. But it's also a genre thing. There's a lot of tech bad guys in many genres, horror being one of them. But there's lots of other bad guys out there too, lots of other types of villains. It's all filtered through the creator. So I guess I just wanted to chuck that in there, something to keep in mind. It makes sense that we have an anti-capitalist, anti-tech kind of show out there with Fallout right now, because that very much, is likely to be what leads to the end of the world. But we'll see. Everybody buckle up. I hope you got your place in the vault.
So kind of circling back to nuance, Chris and anyone else who wants to answer, but as our guest, another personal opinion question. I found with the characters here, there were a few moments in the first 3 episodes that I really loved that packed a lot of nuance from the performance. I didn't think the themes were nuanced so much. I thought they were pretty blatant. But I can find that I'm okay with a theme beating me over the head if there's subtlety in the performances. And there were hints of that in this show. Not enough for me to really keep super interested with it. But for example, when Maximus first when he gets saved by the suit, and then the new squire shows up and he puts the suit on, and he has that moment where he's holding his hand over the squire, and it cuts to a close up of his face, and he just kind of smiles a little. And I just felt I was that's a real guy. That.
Yeah, totally. The power. You see that a lot with Maximus.
There's a different kind of guy that would get in that suit and have a different reaction, where he'd be almost afraid of the power and he would move into humility. But Maximus has just shown me with a subtle smirk that he's the kind of guy that's going to move into pride. And I really like that. So my personal opinion question for you all is Are you the same? Do you think that themes can be very, very overt as long as the performances are subtle, or do you want them both to match, or do you value one over the other kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that the themes could be super on the nose, as long as the writing is there. I think Clay, were you the one who was saying that about the Vince Gilligan interview and him wanting to write like positive protagonists?
Oh no, that was me. Yeah.
That was you, Travis.
Yeah.
See, I think that that can be done poorly or that can be done properly, and I think that you look at Man of Steel, Superman. He's like pure of heart. He just always wants to do the right thing. And the way that this can be interesting is if we see how hard that is. Like at the end of Man of Steel, he's got is it General Zod?
Yep.
He got General Zod in his hands, and to protect people, he has to kill Zod. And I know that everyone has the problem with this, that Superman doesn't kill, but I think it's so interesting when you see a pure person driven to these points. So, when Maximus, he is a good guy. He wants to do good. We see the power kind of start to corrupt him. And we see that maybe he does have it in him to use it immorally, but he doesn't, but he might.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like Lucy, we see that she is a good person and she is constantly tested over and over and over again. So it is super interesting, in my point of view, to see how she overcomes that. It's why Captain America is, probably one of my favorite superheroes. It's not easy to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that these people do it and the sacrifices they make in that journey is what draws me in.
Mm-hmm. Clay?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Chris. I think the themes have to be there. Themes have to be stated, more or less in plain English most of the time. They just to make sure they get across. Even Breaking Bad's themes, as subtle and nuanced as that show is, it's one of the most well-written, beautiful shows I've ever watched. I rewatch it. I actually annually rewatch that show because it's one of the most inspiring shows to me, in terms of writing and character development and just a whole plot coming to fruition. But like, the themes in that show are pretty blatant. Like, Walter White is cancer. He destroys everything around him all the way through the show. Yeah. And the more times you rewatch it, the more times you see how obvious that is from day one in the script, right? And they don't necessarily try to disguise that. They're pretty blatant with it too. Just they don't exactly say it to you like Fallout does. They do a little more show don't tell. But I think Fallout, because of its medium, also sort of benefits from telling you that, because they live in vault tech, right? Like, they've got the Pit Boy, they've got the little thumbs up guy. Like, that's the whole thing with Fallout, is like, we are talking about what our message is. We are literally saying it. And then you see people who are actually living it, like Lucy, and you see how hard that is. Like Chris says, I love that balance of like how hard it is to do good. And I love that by episode 5, like, there's a scene where they're crossing this bridge and there's 2 people on the other side. And Maximus is like, I do not trust these people. And he's just blatantly lying to them. They're lying to him. And Lucy's like, all right, everybody take a deep breath. Yeah. She's like, we're going to calmly cross the bridge together. Yeah. And Maximus is like, give me your gun. These people are going to try to fucking murder us. And Lucy's like, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. It isn't. They try to murder them and Maximus kills both of them. Spoiler alert. Don't worry. Nobody dies in Fallout. But like, it's a great scene, because I think it demonstrates perfectly what you're saying, Chris. Like, no matter what Lucy is put through, she tries to stay good, but she doesn't do it in this static way. Like in episode 1, she's like an annoyingly good character. By the end of the show, she's shooting people, she's stomping on rad roaches, she's like holding her own, she's taken some licks and she's like learned some things. But she's still a good person. She's still trying to do the right thing. And I think that's beautiful. So yeah, I think sometimes if your medium allows it, then how blatantly you state your theme doesn't matter nearly as much, but everything can be held up by good performances, good writing, good dialogue, and good in film, good cinematography too. Like just good filmmaking in general. Like you talk about John Wick all the time. Like John Wick doesn't have any subtlety,
Nope.
or like nuance, but like it's actually really fucking good. It's a simple story, it's a simple plot, but it's all so well made that it's like, look, what did you think you were gonna watch? This guy kills a whole army of assassins because they killed his dog. Like that's what you're getting. You're getting Keanu Reeves being badass. Like what else do you want?
What else do you need?
What else do you need?
He's
so yeah.
justice.
I think it all just depends on the medium. It all depends on the story, but it totally, honestly, works for me in Fallout.
Yeah, Jeremy, and then Colin.
Oh boy, it's me. So first, I'm gonna open up with talking about Man of Steel and the killing scene in
I saw
question.
you when Chris opened with Man of Steel, and I was like, Jeremy's gonna be
Uh-oh.
like, oh,
Listen,
I do have feelings about that. Don't
of
worry.
all the
I am
Snyder
a-
films, that one is definitely not the worst.
I'm in danger.
Look, no. I am a Snyderverse, what you would call an apologist.
Okay.
And I think we do need to give Superman a little bit of slack for Man of Steel because it's his first day being Superman and he's fighting Zod. Now, sure, I don't think there's any realistic way he should have won that fight, but he did because of something, probably absorbing enough yellow sun radiation. Not the point until we do that episode, whenever that's coming.
Because movie.
it's not.
Yeah, because why not? But to the point of the actual question, I think themes are only as strong as their execution. So a theme can be really obvious and really present as long as it's done good. And I think that having been brought up earlier, Captain America is a great example of this. Especially if you take a look at how he is represented from his first appearances in the comics to how he is represented now. He's always represented as the ideal version of what goodness is, essentially. So like when he was first introduced in like the 40s, when he was punching Hitler in the face, goodness was him being a good guy, following the orders of his superiors, no matter what. And in every single one of the Captain America films that have come out, Captain America, at least, Chris Evans' Captain America, I haven't seen the new one yet. Chris Evans' Captain America is his being good is going rogue literally every single time. He never doesn't go rogue because it's the right thing to do. Authority can suck my butt because they're wrong.
Yeah.
And the right thing to do is to do what Captain America would do. And I think the theming there is not subtle, and it doesn't need to be because you have these performances holding it up. Chris Evans, I'll drink to him right here on camera. There you go, YouTube algorithm and maybe Spotify. I don't know. You can't see me.
I think to your point too, and then Colin, you got something, but like the new one, I did watch it in theaters last weekend. Was too safe. I think like it was like to your point of the theme can be overt as long as the performances are good. I thought the new one like took way too little risks. It didn't really have a lot to say other than like, look, Captain America's Captain America still. And I walked out of the movies not disappointed, but also not like, it was just kind of like, that's it. Okay. That wasn't something that I remember seeing. So,
I will see. Thus far, I've only been disappointed by one Marvel movie, and I'm sure it's not what you think. It was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, come on.
That is a hot take.
Volume 3 ruled.
How dare you?
Okay.
Sir.
Look at this
I'll-
guy over here with no daddy issues.
Yeah,
Colin,
apparently.
hop in there since you're adamant about Guardians.
All right. Well, the only good Marvel movies are the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but that's beside the point. That's for another episode.
Also hot take.
That's a hot take.
Also,
You're a massive troll.
the
and we
short, I have
know.
about 7 points to make. So the first one is that the answer to Travis's question is that the Fallout TV series is not very nuanced. But that doesn't make it bad. In fact, it's very different from Silo, which is very nuanced and probably too nuanced and too specifically serious. And Fallout does not take itself seriously, which I was very happy to see. And there's also like, I mean, as Clay said, and I think rightly pointed out, like, there's so much more in the world of Fallout than the show captured, but that's also hard to do when, I mean, I think the minimum play time of Fallout 3 is like 30 hours. And like the show is, I mean, right? I mean, isn't it 10 episodes, an hour each? So like
That'd
10
be
hours.
Fast. That'd be real fast.
Yeah, but like Clay was saying, like there are character arcs. So I mean, I think that all the characters change. They're very different from the first episode to the last episode. And I'm glad you brought up that bridge scene because I think it's one of the best scenes in the whole series, where like these are characters who are in a conflict physically in the sense that they could die, but also they have their internal conflicts. Like these are who they are and these are their principles, and now they have to question them. And the result is complicated, you know, like they can't really stay the same. And the way we went into it is going to change, and it highlights how things are changing for them character-wise and also sort of plot-wise. But and then the other thing that they did, I think, to kind of capture all those different elements of the video games, and I'd love to hear what Chris has to say about this too, because we're fans of video games, is that they're following like the Walter Goggins, the Ghoul, and they're also following one of our Vault Tech folks, and then we're also following the Brotherhood of Steel, and I was so brokenhearted over the Brotherhood of Steel because it becomes like a Star Wars Episode 1, like we're gonna make these guys a silly, ridiculous, what is it, like the fool in the show to like as comic relief, and I was like, that is not the Brotherhood of Steel. Like Fallout, like Clay was saying, like Fallout has a great sort of overarching theme, which is war never changes, which is kind of interesting because it's very different from like Star Trek, you know, where Fallout is front and center in Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, how like war doesn't change, the world changes, but it's always bad and it's always anarchy, no matter what you try and do. And there's all these different organizations that are trying to change that through religious means or political means or technologic means, but it doesn't. And then, and like as a fan, like in the games, the world is horrible, full of super mutants and stuff that wants to kill you. And the only thing that's going to keep you safe realistically is the Brotherhood of Steel. And they're a like religious, political knighthood organization that is, I mean, like Clay said, they're like feudal and they're badass. And then in the show, it's like, you know, they're kind of shitty and idiotic, and they break their suits that fly around, and they're kind of a shit show of an organization. I'm like, no, that's not what they are. God damn it!
They're like abusing their power
I can
left
like
and right.
I can like see the black leggings that they're wearing underneath the suits, which like broke my sort of my willing suspension of disbelief, which I was upset by. So those are some of my hot takes of the show. Chris, what did you think of the Brotherhood of Steel in the show?
I thought it was a good evolution of them. You know, you can't have every faction being like super serious. So I thought that having the basically the law enforcement be a bunch of jackasses, I thought that was pretty okay for me.
Clay.
I think it speaks to Jeremy's point really well. That is no longer in style to be the Brotherhood of Steel. It's no longer in style to be the authoritative, militaristic control center that like protects people. It's more in style for like the common person from a normal background to rise up and defy authority. And even within that authority, that's who we are rooting for within the Brotherhood of Steel is Maximus, who was a squire, who was the downtrodden member of that society. We were never at any point rooting for anyone else in the Brotherhood of Steel. that's the
they're
way
a
the
bunch of
show
aggro
set us up.
dipshits.
But in
exactly.
the game though, they're not like that. They're kind of like they are
No,
the good
you're right.
guys. I mean, in the fourth one, I think we see a definite shift with the Minutemen. They're very much like they're doing what's right. They're us basically doing what's right. They don't have power armor. They just have, the guns that they built from the scraps that they found.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
I think that's a general thing, and maybe this is too broad of a stroke, but I don't know. I see it a lot, especially in studying like theology. America in general has never loved public servants as in not public servants in general. We always have looked at public servants through our like governmental lens of you work for us, and it's not the other way around. So like these feudal monarchy systems, I don't think American audiences are very susceptible to, because to us, public servants are our employees. Like they work for the people. You work for me. And the reason I'm bringing it up with like theology is there's all these debates in American Catholicism at like Pope Francis. And it's like, we can't have these debates until we reorient our minds to like, the Pope does not work for you. He is not your employee, or some kind of like public servant. It's a totally different relationship that we have to frame a lot in those conversations. But I think that comes out in our writing and comes out in Fallout as well, of like, it's hard, I think, for some audiences, especially American audiences, to accept this idea of like the feudal knight, of a public servant that doesn't work for you, but is just like a protector that works for himself and comes in and like stomps out bad. I don't know though. Maybe I'm wrong there, but that's a theme I've been noticing in some things.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I like that. And why? So they're the perfect target to make the idiots.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jeremy?
yeah. And I mean, we have this idea, and it's especially prevalent in American media, where absolute power corrupts absolutely. So if you've got a guy who feels like he's invulnerable, yeah, he's gonna be an asshole, no matter what. And so if you have an entire society of these guys just running around in power armor with some other guy just jogging sweatily behind with a duffel bag the size of himself, or sweatily in
carry
front.
the duffel bag with the armor, you prick.
Well,
it wouldn't even be
You
hard.
unbelievable son of a bitch. You for sure can carry that duffel bag. You're telling me they can't build storage into that armor? That's bullshit.
That was one of the fun facts, was the writers intentionally put the duffel bags in as like a little gag about the game, of how you constantly have to keep like your inventory list in check and stuff. So they just were like, let's make that a literal physical thing that a person carries around.
It's so good.
I love that. But
that's great, because they do in Fallout make you monitor your inventory. If you carry too much, you actually die.
Which last question for me that kind of bleeds perfectly into that. Do you feel, and it seems like you probably didn't feel that with this show, because it seems like most people kind of enjoyed it, but adaptation seems so difficult to me, especially of say like video games or worlds that we've lived in so deeply, because sometimes I feel like they this phrase might not hit perfectly, but I feel like they die at the altar of imitation, where the story gets sacrificed to capture the feel of the world. And I don't know if that happened with Fallout, because I really didn't play the games and I only watched 3 episodes, so I'm no expert on that. But I've seen shows where it did, where it's like we really want to capture the feel that these people are so familiar with. And so they kind of just write to the feeling and lose a coherent plot or really good characterization, where I'd almost rather see some of the feeling get lost as long as the story is good. Have you all seen that? What did you think? How do you think Fallout did with it? That's kind of my last question. Clay.
I think that's uniquely difficult in video game adaptations, especially RPGs, because we experience the game through our own subjective lens. There is no single script to Fallout. There isn't. There literally isn't. Like there's no one way that anyone in the universe has ever played that game. I have not played it the same way as Colin, as Chris, as Jeremy. Because the only time that game is the same for anybody, and even then is not entirely the same, is in the vault at the very beginning, and that's just the tutorial.
Yeah.
But even then, you pick different skills and everything. But as soon as you step out of the vault, like Fallout is a totally free ball game. Like especially Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4. Like as soon as you walk out of that vault, you can do anything you want. It's like Zelda. Like if you want to go try to fight Ganondorf, you can. It's not going to be good for you, but you can do it. Like you can go anywhere you want. And you can go straight to DC and try to fight super mutants with your little pistol with 8 bullets and see how that goes for you. Or you go to Megaton like the game tells you to. But from like, there's no one way to play that game, and everybody has played it their own unique way. So I think it's really, really hard to translate any kind of coherent narrative that everyone can like translate directly to their experience of the game. So I think the best you can do is capture the overall feeling, the overall vibe as best you can.
Jeremy?
Yeah, well, I agree with basically all of that. Games struggle with being adapted to film, movies, TV shows, whatever, because the agency that characterizes most video games and really games in general is not possible in movies and TV. Like, so you have heaps and heaps of shitty video game adaptations, and that one or more terrible D&D adaptations, but then something like D&D Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves was pretty good. And everyone like realistically enjoyed that because it seems like they sidestepped trying to capture what someone would maybe feel by playing that game, and just focused on a story that would happen in the world of the game, and maybe by players playing it in the case of Honor Among Thieves, which that came across, and that was great. But with anything where you have a clear morality of what's going on, and you obviously don't influence what the characters are going to do, you have to have a lot of main characters to really bring across the spectrum of what gamers are going to do with the game.
But Mortal Kombat did it perfectly.
Sure, why not?
All right. Chris, you have thoughts on this? And also, thank you for the Uwe Ball name drop.
Yes, that was actually
that was
perfect.
fantastic. And
he is notorious.
Going to look on his Rotten Tomatoes page.
What a fucking legend!
All green. It's
he gets work.
All rotten.
He gets work.
He gets work.
Somehow.
Doesn't he ever?
I don't know. I think like Borderlands. I remember seeing that trailer and thinking, wow, they really did capture the setting. But then you look at the cast and you look at, Kevin Hart as Roland, who's like this big, tough guy in the game. And then, Kevin Hart in the movie. I haven't seen the movie, so Kevin Hart, he may have done a great job, but it's not what you think of when you think of Roland. Like the casting has to be there. The writing has to be there. And, if you're just capturing the setting, you're going to end up with a bad movie like Resident Evil, which,
I refuse to see the Borderlands movie. Jack Black forgot he was in that movie.
Did he?
Yes.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
I
when
think
he did an interview later.
I bet you he did a really good job because, Claptrap, he played Claptrap, right?
Yep.
Like
his was probably the best part.
He's got a Claptrap energy. But
Jables doesn't do it halfway.
No, he commits. But if those elements aren't there, like you still have to tell the story. You can't just phone it in with like, hey, look, this is cell shaded the right way that Borderlands, was. you're going to miss out. And that's why you get such great properties like Fallout, in which they have this freedom. You know, Clay was saying nobody plays the game the same way. In that sense, they have the freedom to do their own thing, which they did, and they did well. Because, you know, you have Jonathan Nolan at the helm. He at least does first seasons really well. I'm looking at you, Westworld. Or you have The Last of Us, in which the story for the game is so expertly written that you can literally just implement the same elements and get a fantastic TV show.
Yeah. I'm actually
totally, and she's not from 101. You know, she's not from a vault we're familiar with. She's from 33,
exactly,
which is like a vault we don't know.
Yeah.
And it works well with the overarching theme of the series too, because it becomes obvious by the end. Again, we spoil everything on this show. But by the end, you kind of realize like vaults 31 through 33 is where all the employees of Vault Tech got to go. So everybody who's in this show from those vaults, like they were very much like a direct descendant of a Vault Tech high-ranking employee. So that's another like interesting aspect. Everybody you're rooting for in the show is a direct descendant of the people who caused the catastrophe, which is also kind of a fun take on it.
See, and while
I am only rooting for the dog.
Also a direct descendant of somebody.
Yep.
Shit.
As I was asking the question, I was actually thinking about like outside of the video game realm. I think Star Wars has fallen into this problem where everyone has this expectation of what Star Wars is supposed to look like, and so a lot of the recent movies and TV series have just tried to like fit that cookie cutter expectation and sacrifice the story. And in my opinion, the best show that's come out was Andor, and that's because it was like, we have a big enough world and a sandbox to play in. Let's just put a spy thriller in it and like write a really good spy thriller that just happens to be in the Star Wars world. And I loved that they did that and kind of got out of that. So I think to your point, Chris, of like Fallout's such a big sandbox, just take a good story and throw it in the sandbox and you're going to be fine because you have so much to work with for background stuff. But Jeremy?
Okay. So this has nothing to do with Fallout. Okay, but what Travis is talking about just then, is that expectation, in my opinion, is why the sequel trilogy failed. And by failed, I mean it released a third episode in the trilogy that shat itself into oblivion.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to release one of my famous hot takes that The Last Jedi is probably the best Star Wars movie ever made.
Ooh, that is a hot take.
Yeah, that's piping hot. Just try to hold that with your hands. You're gonna burn it.
That is a very, very hot take. I think
an okay amount of gin this episode.
What the fuck are you doing? This is not the time for that. This is not the time to drop that troll.
We have 7 minutes.
Don't worry, I'll drop
this
it again.
episode, and you're gonna drop. But yeah,
this is for the hardcore fans, right?
Yeah.
I would like to say too something I raised my hand earlier for. There is also a video game adaptation strategy that works well, which is The Last of Us, which is when a game isn't as RPG and is basically a movie already. That's when I think you should stick to it. So I think it is sometimes okay to live up to the expectations of the audience as opposed to that sandbox idea, which I think is perfect for like any open world RPG. I think that's the only way to do it. But for example, if you were to ever make like a Legend of Zelda movie and you were going to do the Ocarina of Time, say, you should probably stick to like the storyline that we expect, because that's not an RPG. It's got a pretty specific like storyline and plot that you have to follow through. Yeah. The Last of Us is chock full of cutscenes and stuff. It's already basically a movie, and I think that's why it translated so well to a TV show. And they still did some sandbox stuff with like episode 3, as we talked about when we did this show on Fermented Fiction. But
I do think they'll have to change, spoilers anybody who hasn't played the game, I think they'll have to change season 2 a little, because I just cannot see them paying Pedro Pascal money and killing him in like the first episode because Joel dies pretty quick in the game.
Just right away.
Yeah,
Just right away.
So I don't know.
I knew I should have bought a PS5.
I'm so sorry.
Did you not know this?
Oh no,
Chris?
Chris! I'm
I
so sorry.
didn't know.
Oh, it's
sorry.
I didn't
no,
it's
know,
on
but
Steam
to be
now.
fair,
Well, the first
Pedro
game
wasn't
is.
telling us, so
Yeah.
my bad. Sorry, Chris.
After what happened in the first game, I was like, he can't die. They pulled the switcheroo.
They do a really
that'll
good,
teach you.
they do a really good job. Like they did such a good job with that story that the actress who voices the girl that kills you play as the girl that kills him
Oh wow.
through half the game, and the girl that kills him, the actress that voiced it, got like death threats to her child
Oh,
because she was like so good at the
that's-
role.
Yeah,
People were
did.
like, "We're gonna
I-
come to your door and kill your baby." And she was
Okay,
like, this is bad. Yeah.
I didn't know why she was getting the death threats, but now it makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. It's because
Yeah, that's why.
People of the internet.
But
please
I'm
care
just
a
gonna
little
spoil
more.
it. I don't know. Yeah, Chris, you should play it. It's really, really well done.
I'm-
But also,
oh,
just
okay.
a gut punch.
Yeah. Just okay. Let's. I am playing Red Dead Redemption 2, so I just want to put that out there. No spoilers.
Okay.
Gotcha.
No spoilers for Red Dead.
Thank you.
All right.
I haven't
and
played anything, so it's fine.
The safest way to avoid further spoilers is probably to just avoid continuing this episode. So maybe that's what we should do. Chris, it's been awesome having you on, man. So before we do our rating of Fallout, how about you tell everybody where they can find you, where your links are at, what do you go by on social media, and what do you have coming up? We know about Pushing Daisy, but tell us about it one more time.
Yeah, Pushing Daisy. It is a horror novel, very much in the vein of like a Stephen King kind of paced book. It's got complex characters. It's got fast-paced stuff. It's got a lot of love, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of scariness. And but yeah, besides that, you can find me at coauthor.ca because I am Canadian and the .ca domain is cheaper. Other than that, I haven't been writing a lot because I have 2 young kids and they take up a lot of my time. So check out that backlog, yo.
Hell yeah.
Where can they find that backlog, yo?
Again, coauthor.ca will have all my social links. I'm not on Twitter so much because that ain't the cool place to be anymore. A lot of crazy shit going on over there. So find me on Blue Sky, find me on TikTok, and find me on Instagram. I'm gonna be doing more Instagram.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
We'll put
It's
those
okay. I
links
won't call Twitter
down.
X either.
No.
No,
Oh,
fuck
dude.
that. It's Twitter.
It's
We
Twitter.
all know what it is. Now, we'll put those links down in the show notes. Thank you, Chris, for coming on the show. It's been awesome to have you. But before we let you go, let's rate Fallout, the TV show, shall we? How many drinks? This is our rating system. If you don't already know, some might consider it arbitrary. Some might consider it random as fuck. Some might consider it really helpful. It just depends. I consider it helpful. How many drinks do you need? Drinks or weed or whatever else to enjoy Fallout the series to the fullest extent. And we'll start with Colin.
Good, because basically you should pick your poison, like you should get just completely smashed the first episode, and then the second episode you want to just get real high, and then you're just gonna have to you won't really know if it's the show or what you did, but that's the problem, is that it is a show that does not take itself seriously, which I enjoy that fact about it. And so I think you should enjoy and have a good time with, you shouldn't do the okay, this is a, Eggers film, I really got to concentrate. No. Invite people over, go nuts. Yeah, have fun. Pick your poison. Let's say 2 shots an episode, timed precisely. And then you go up from there if you need.
Love it. How about you, Jeremy?
Well, I think now we're going to need, I'd say, 4 to 5 per episode for the number of times when I'm checking to see how much time is left. in an episode. Sure, I only watched the first 3. I'm not gonna watch the remaining 5. So that puts us at
12.
let's see, 4 times 8. That's 20. That's
Oh.
32.
Okay.
And then we need to add one for Badwater Bouldering, one for Tim's Totality, and one for Jolie Tumajan, if I'm saying that correctly, who are holding it down in the comments of the live stream.
Shout out.
So, 35 of something to, enjoy this to the
That might be
fullest
a record.
extent.
Listen, if I know Jolie, she's gonna be able to handle that.
All right.
Well, thank goodness. Somebody has to.
All right.
I'll be sleeping by the time I get through episode 3.
I could say the same for Badwater Bouldering. Jake and Kyle Love. What up, homies? Thanks for tuning in. This is like 3
You can
shows in
do
a
it,
row.
guys.
Appreciate y'all.
All right.
Mm.
Who's
Travis.
next? All right. I'm doing a double shot of Jack mixed with a Nuka-Cola
Naturally.
every episode. So by the end of the series, that's 16 shots of Jack and 8 Nuka-Colas. So I'm going to be very gassy and drunk.
Hell yeah.
And you know,
Tonic
Travis,
for a happy wife.
Travis, I
Sleep it on the
would
couch.
I would have done, that Eagle Rare with Coke, but I'm
Don't.
right
Please
now
stop.
living in a house
Stop
where
it.
it's only sugar-free sodas.
Stop
So
it. I'm
not gonna do that to myself
Just gonna keep pretending
because
that
I
you-
like myself.
Gonna keep pretending that you didn't mix Eagle Rare with soda. That's
I did, and it was good.
Jeremy, buy some Capri Suns. Capri Suns are still stupidly
Yeah,
cheap, and you can
dude,
use them as a
Capri
mixer with that.
Sun.
Travis, okay, Colin, that's too much.
Thank
Let's
you.
dial it back a
Thank
smidge.
you.
Okay.
Jeremy, come on. That's not you.
Can somebody
I have
else?
standards. It may shock you to learn this. I do have standards, okay?
I'm
I
offended,
like
Jeremy.
myself slightly.
Can somebody else please rate this show?
They make sugar-free Capri Suns now.
No.
Sugar-free Capri Sun. I mean, what else could you need? Okay, I will rate it.
Means you're old.
Yeah, it does mean that. I would say while I was watching this most recently, I was sipping a whiskey and I had a beer like after the whiskey sometime like an episode later. So I think it's a pretty solid show if you're I agree with Colin. I like Colin's idea. It's a good show to have some friends over to like whatever you do to like kind of cut loose, however much you need to drink to cut loose, get beyond a buzz, just to like the beginning of being drunk. You don't need to be shit-faced to enjoy this show. I think it's pretty
Just one
enjoyable.
step beyond a buzz will do you real good.
Yeah, just the step beyond the buzz right when you enter into the realm of drunk. It's like you have a lot more fun in the wasteland when you very first come out of the vault than you probably will after a year in the wasteland. So just come out of the vault and stay there. Whatever that
especially
is
when
for
you
you. For
realize-
me, it's a whiskey, a beer, and about an eighth of a joint. So that's what I would recommend per 2
Yeah.
episodes.
You know what?
Especially when you realize, and I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but especially
you?
when you realize, kinda, almost,
I don't think you are, or you wouldn't do it.
I guess.
Especially when you realize
when
what?
you realize that the guy that is Lucy's brother was Rico in Hannah Montana.
Yes.
So
That should have been in the facts. That's
that
a
Yeah.
should
good
have been in the
fact.
facts. Where were you at, Colin?
Jeez, Colin.
Yeah,
Don't
Colin.
blame me for this.
Get
This
your
is
Hannah
fact that
Montana
you
shit
didn't say.
into the facts, bro.
Yeah,
Come
get
on,
it in
man.
there.
I gave you the floor though, Jeremy, and you didn't hop in.
That's
I
true,
didn't.
Jeremy.
Chris,
This is
That's
supposed to
okay.
be a
I feel more
serious
comfortable
show,
blaming
everybody. Chris,
what
how
do
do
you
you
rate
rate the show?
You know what? I gotta disagree with all of you. I think you can
Oh.
enjoy this completely sober. I think what you got to do is you just got to put your 2-liter water bottle with the cool Minecraft sticker from your son
Nice.
underneath your
Sure.
ceiling. Collect some drywall
There it
filtered
is.
pipe water.
I guess that was my issue. Yeah.
you know, it has a little bit of a tang when you filter it through the drywall.
Yeah.
You just sit there and binge the whole 8 episodes. You're going to be well hydrated, and you're going to feel like you're drunk when you watch these guys talk about, you know, banging chickens and pleading for their heads to be cut off.
Nice.
Oh,
Good,
but we
yeah.
didn't talk about chicken fucker, really.
As
mean,
well we
not-
I don't know
should.
how we
Good.
breezed over chicken fucker.
We
but
probably
there's-
should.
We did. Honestly, I'm surprised at us. That sounds like exactly what we're about.
That might have been the hardest I've ever laughed at a TV show, when you think he's saving him from the bad guy, and the bad guy just dejectedly says, "Man, he was fucking my chickens." Oh,
Like,
I
I
think
really
that-
don't
that
know
was
what to
really
do with
funny.
that kind of criminal.
I misread the
I
situation.
feel like this is a Jeremy show. Like, Jeremy, you got to do something to get through
You do.
Yeah.
this show.
I have to do something to get me through the show. I don't think that was your point, but honestly, yeah, no, I'm not watching another episode unless we, for some reason, cover season 2. In
I
which case,
do make the schedule, so
Let's do it. I'll come
I
back.
know you do.
Chris,
When
you're
are we
coming back for
covering Man of
season
Steel?
2.
I'm coming back for season 2.
there we
All
go.
right,
That's it.
get
We're
after it,
sold.
Jeremy.
Get after it.
Okay,
Yeah.
everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Fermented Fiction. We have been the usual buffoons, and our wonderful guest has been Chris O'Halloran. And go check out Pushing Daisy. Go check out his website. We'll put everything in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here. Good.
Laters, everybody.
Goodbye.
All right.